Hello, welcome to EVTN News. Today we have some interesting news stories. I don't want to say it's interesting, it's quite frankly sickening. Diocesan Latin Masses are pretty much, I don't know, are they done? Let's see. During a meeting with Cardinal Roach last week, Francis confirmed that following Traditionis Custodes, certain dispensations are not under the prerogative of the local bishop, but rather are reserved in a special way to the Apostolic See. These include using a parish church to celebrate the Latin Mass using the 62 Missal, erecting a new personal parish to celebrate the traditional Mass using the 1962 Missal, and allowing priests ordained after the publication of Traditionis Custodes permission to use the 62 Missale Romanum. Okay, so um, note that last part for later. If a diocesan bishop has already given dispensations for such cases in his diocese, the CDW, Congregation for Divine Worship, ordered that he should now make such details known to the Vatican, after which Roach's congregation would evaluate the individual cases, which means, and they're going to decline every one, we'll see in here in a later story. So if a newly ordained priest requests to say the Latin Mass, then he'll get denied. Um, if a bishop requests a parish church to celebrate the Latin Mass, that's probably likely to get denied by the Vatican. And this indicates to bishops that the bad bishops who hate the Mass, they can just ban it, because that's what the Vatican wants. They want the Roman Catholic Mass to be banned, the sole expression of the Roman rite. That's what they want. And so that's what we're going to get. And a few weeks ago, I did a video on the SSPX and are they prepared? And they're not. They don't have the personnel. They don't have the priests. They're not prepared for this. They're prepared to continue to offer masses in their own chapels, but they're not prepared to expand. Now, will priests try to join the SSPX? Maybe some, hopefully a lot. And then maybe we can, maybe we can move forward on that. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen very quickly. In fact, it's probably going to be a slow process. And so in the meantime, your Mass is going to be banned if you attend diocesan Latin Mass. Now, I guess best case scenario would be you'll be moved to a shed or a gym, like a high school gym. What about a workout gym? Maybe you could get Bishop Barron to come in and say a Mass there, Word on Fire workout, right? Get a workout in while you're saying Mass. He actually doesn't do that, but kind of funny to joke about. All right, and if you're pro-life, the Department of Justice has charged 8 more pro-life activists with violating the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. The latest charges stem from an August 2020 incident where pro-life activists allegedly blockaded the entrance to a Michigan abortion clinic. So you're going to be targeted by the federal government. Well, if you attend the Latin Mass, you're going to be targeted. If you're pro-life, you're going to be targeted. That's just how it works right now, because when you have elections that are, I don't know. I don't know how to say it. I don't know how to phrase it. But when things are not as they seem, and when people get away with one thing, they get away with many things. We'll just say that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so some people don't think the Latin Mass restrictions are what we thought they would be. So remember, April 3rd was the target date for all of these massive Latin Mass restrictions, and that still could be the case. But Info Vaticana The website thinks that that's not the case. They think this is the end. Here's what it said in one of their articles. They said an apostolic constitution was expected and a rescript arrived. So Roach went in to his meeting with Francis, and he expected an apostolic constitution, but he got a rescript, which is much lower in authority and whatever. At least this is what this website's saying. The mountain went into labor and gave birth to a mouse. Although many observers see the latest document against the traditional Mass as confirmation of the worst predictions, it is very likely that it is the opposite or end, or at least the beginning of the end. So that's what they think. But what's at the beginning of the end of? The Latin Mass? Because it certainly seems like that. No, that's not true, though. The Latin Mass will never end. And remember, if you attend a Latin Mass, then you have the SSPX to thank, particularly Archbishop Lefebvre. That's an inconvenient fact a lot of these people, overlook. They have the SSPX to thank, because without the SSPX, the Latin Mass would have gone away. But it won't. It will not go away. All right. And this Lent, CatholicAction.org is sending to all U.S. clergy a copy of Cardinal Burke's 65-page booklet called Deny Holy Communion? 382 bishops and 41,000 priests. This book combats the false belief that there is never a situation in which Holy Communion should be denied to a public and unrepentant sinner who claims to be Catholic. This belief is promoted by Pope Francis. So Cardinal Burke published a book on, I think it was either one of his essays or one of his speeches, and he sent it to a lot of clergy. Now will they read it? I don't know. Especially the ones who are very Francis-y, who reject Catholic tradition and don't ever want to deny anyone to communion. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to deny someone communion, but who think that no one should ever be denied communion. Let's just put it that way. They think that no one should be denied communion. Really? Someone came up with this question: how many of the priests would deny Hitler communion? What about a Trump supporter? Would they deny communion to them? No, they just need to be accompanied. Okay. So, are you excited for the Eucharistic Revival? Registration fees listed on the USCCB's 2024 Eucharistic Congress website are $375 for individuals. Are you excited now? You also have to book a hotel too. I mean, that's not going to be super cheap, especially with a huge number of people coming in. Actually, there probably will be quite a few people there because the diocese will probably pay their. A lot of the dioceses will send representatives, and as you saw, there were 382 bishops. But I think there's like 200 dioceses, maybe in like, it's more than 150 because that's maybe excluding the 150 numbers, maybe excluding the Eastern Rites. Not that really matters. Not that the Eastern Rites really care about Eucharistic revival. For families, the cost is $299 per adult and $99 for each child over age 2. The fee for seminarians, clerics, and religious is also $299. Registration covers 5 days of talks, catechesis, and liturgies, as well as smaller events at the convention center, but does not cover food, lodging, travel, or parking for the event. So, like I said, each diocese will probably they'll probably pay the way for some people to go, and then they could write about it and write a great article for the diocesan newspaper, and then everyone just moves back returns to their daily lives like nothing happened, and spend a lot of money. And you know, I wouldn't obviously I wouldn't pay for this, but you'd really have to pay for me to go. Like I wouldn't go for free. You'd have to pay me to attend their Novus Ordo liturgies and their catechesis, the talks. It would. I mean, I wouldn't even go if you paid me unless you paid me well, and then I'd probably skip most of the events, go somewhere else. It's in Indianapolis. Maybe take a tour of what like. Do they have like a racing museum? Because I know that's where they have the Indy 500. Maybe I'd go there. There's probably some Latin masses there. I don't know if there's FSSP or Institute or SSPX there. Probably at least a few of them. Okay, so now maybe things are not as they seem, but let me read this to you. Rescript News. The rescript of what was called the rescript was the declaration from Rome that Latin Mass cannot be celebrated in a parish church. The news, it said, "We are very sad to hear that Bishop Stock of Leeds, England, has decided to cancel all traditional Latin Masses in his Diocese of Leeds as of next week, with the sole exception of St. Patrick's Bradford, which is not a parish church." The tablet reported how Bishop Stock had learned to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass because he said, "It is important." Oh, in 2007. Okay. In 2007, the tablet reported how Bishop Stock had learned to celebrate the traditional Latin Mass because he said, "It is important that I try to be a father to everyone in my diocese." And now he changes his tune. What does that make him by banning the Latin Mass? Now, however, people said that he's trying to find ways to allow it. So we'll see. And I'm not from England, so I don't know that I'll find out. Okay. The current Vatican will not give permissions to priests ordained after Traditionis Custodes to celebrate Mass, Catholic Herald has learned. Gloria TV has reported on this rigidity several times since Traditionis Custodes. The latest Francis Rescript claims that bishops must seek permission from the Dicastery for Divine Worship to allow a newly ordained priest to offer Mass. So, like I said earlier, that's exactly what's happening. Okay. They're not going to allow priests to celebrate Mass. Albany, New York. There was a post today. My pastor announced that Bishop Scharfenberger of the Albany, New York Diocese ended the celebration of the Latin Mass effective immediately. April 3rd came early for our community. So there you go. Bishops just canceling Latin Masses. Dominoes are falling. It's a pretty sad time right now, unless you're SSPX, because you always have the Mass and the sacraments, despite rotten bishops. And think about this. Do you trust diocesan bishops now at all? And will you ever trust diocesan bishops? I wouldn't trust them with the Latin Mass. A lot of these guys, it seems to be that they're opportunists. It seems as though these bishops, they'll do whatever the Pope, whatever the whims of the Pope, whichever direction the whims of the Pope go, these bishops will blow in the wind. They're like leaves. They'll blow in the wind. So if the wind is blowing hard to the right, and these bishops will say, "I like the Latin Mass, and it's great, and I'll let every priest offer it." But then whenever Francis comes along, they say, "Oh, I'm going to ban it for everyone." So I don't know how many opportunist bishops are there. We'll find out very quickly, I think. They're going to do whatever they think the Vatican wants to hear. Tell them what they want to hear, do what they want you to do. Don't think for yourselves. Bishops shouldn't do that. It's not like they have any authority in their diocese anyway, right? Because the parish council women run the diocese. Is it true? Do bishops really have any authority? Okay. Okay, so this is information about Bishop Paprocki. Diocesan bishops are much more in tune with what's going on in their diocese than a Vatican office, noted Springfield Bishop Thomas Paprocki of Illinois about Francis' rescript forbidding to celebrate Mass in parish churches. Paprocki has preempted the rescript by designating Sacred Heart Church in Springfield, where Mass is celebrated, as a non-parochial church. There are ways around this rotten declaration, as there were ways around everything. Cardinal Roach didn't even observe Summorum Pontificum. So bishops don't have to do anything, and Rome's not going to do a thing about it. Actually, they might, if you're a traditionalist. But if you're a sodomite Jesuit who rapes nuns, then you won't get any punishment for it, right? I think he molested men, too. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Rupnik, S.J. Or Zanchetta. Or McCarrick, until the media found out about him. Any of these perverts. Speaking of perverts, the Novus Ordo Church in Glebe, Sydney, Australia, organized a February 24th LMNOP Eucharist during the city's World Pride. According to CatholicArena.com, the event was advertised under the title Thanksgiving Mass for the Gift of LMNOPQ Plus Folk in the Church and in the World. A well-known activist and Anglican preacher attended. LMNOP activist. A local Catholic wanted to participate, likely to protest as seen on the video in the link, but was thrown out by the police, who were called in the pretext of safety and security concerns. So all are welcome at the LMNOP. Well, I wouldn't call it a mass. All are welcome at the LMNOP heretical celebration, except those who disagree. Hitler had already renounced religion when he started his hatred of certain groups. I've been followed by the FBI for years. Okay. Oh, whoa. I don't trust any of these bishops. Do you think Bishop Gaynor in Harrisburg will cave in? Bishop Gaynor in Harrisburg will be forcibly... He's retired. I mean, he's way past retirement age. He's not going to do anything right now. And he should, when he is forced into retirement, he should say the Latin Mass. Bishops... I think you can trust Strickland and maybe Connolly. Yeah. Maybe. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But the FSSP and the Institute, do they have a game plan? I was talking with people and I said they don't really have a game plan. They should be ordaining as much as they can in case, they get shut down from Rome. Have all these priests so that they can say all these masses and keep the Latin Mass alive even more than it already is. And I do know some FSSP seminarians who are going to be ordained, and I hope that maybe they'll be ordained to the priesthood more quickly. I hope for their sakes. I talked to them, and You know, it's sad. But if they're ordained, then they could just go around and say private masses, so that'll be good. I hope. But as for this news, I mean, you gotta get in touch with the SSPX, let them know you exist. If you have any Eastern Rite churches in the area that are, decently Catholic, then I would try to, get your foot in the door there as well. If you don't have an Eastern Rite parish, do your research. And if you have a community of Catholics who want reverent liturgy, the Eastern rites, the Byzantine rite, I've been to, was it the Ukrainian Byzantine rite and the Ruthenian Byzantine rite? And both of those use the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. Get a group of Catholics together and contact the bishop of your geographical area of one of those rites and request a divine liturgy. Maybe he'll come once a month. Maybe a priest will come once a month as a mission church, and you can set it up. And it's just like the Latin Mass was before, Pope Francis decided that he hated it. You could do a similar thing. Now it's obviously not your right, but that doesn't mean you can't go. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't request a priest, right? We have a community, they'll provide for you. And they won't have communion in the hand. They probably won't have altar girls. I haven't seen a Byzantine church that has altar girls, and I've been to several. What are the other abuses? Eucharistic ministers, obviously you're not going to have that. The songs, they're pretty much not going to be 70s or 80s, nostalgic songs. What's funny is that Latin Mass attendees are accused of nostalgia, but when you listen to the Novus Ordo songs, these people are stuck in the 80s. I mean, it's sad. Who's nostalgic? Is it me? I haven't, I mean, I had the opportunity, I guess I may have had an opportunity to attend the Latin Mass when I was younger. I didn't, but I mean, people theoretically could have. But you're talking about nostalgia for something that was effectively banned by the Vatican before I was born. I mean, come on. I'm not nostalgic for the Latin Mass because I never grew up with it. I was Novus Ordo for almost my whole life. And then I found the Latin Mass and didn't want to go back, and really didn't. So the nostalgia, I mean, yeah, generally. Now some of the Byzantines, they try to, oh, it's bad. Sometimes they'll sing some Novus Ordo songs. No, I don't want that. I didn't come to the Byzantines to hear Novus Ordo garbage. And the Oregon Catholic Press, I call them the establishment of modern church music, because they have basically a monopoly on the market of liturgical music, which is, I don't want to call it, I shouldn't have said liturgical music, that's an error. It's not appropriate for the liturgy. I mean, it's just not. Liturgical music is Gregorian chant, and you can find a lot of that online, especially YouTube. It's really been, the availability of Gregorian chant on YouTube and practice songs, that's grown significantly, even just in the past several years, which is great. You can find all of that stuff. The Byzantine liturgy, there's not a lot of songs on YouTube available, but you can watch a lot of Byzantine divine liturgies and kind of see what the tunes are to the songs. And you can probably download texts of the Divine Liturgy of St. John Chrysostom. I think there's some slight differences between like the different Eastern, like the different Byzantine rites that I was talking about, but for the most part, you can follow along. There's a lot of psalms, and it's a different experience. It really is, and it's really neat. Let's see. Okay, I think there's a Ukrainian rite in my city. Oh, look it up online. My diocese doesn't allow altar girls. Well, don't tell that to Francis. Ooh. Um. Oh, so what is this? Saint. Oh, wait. Non-Catholic Armenian figure named a doctor of the church, Gregory of Nardek. I've never heard of him. I don't know. I don't really know. Yeah. Now, and it's we're in tricky times. I would say if you have a good bishop, it might be helpful to schedule a meeting and maybe suggest certain chapels where you could have your Latin Mass, because the good bishops will provide for the people, especially like this hasn't banned a whole lot of stuff besides Latin masses in parish churches, but the bad bishops will take the liberty to ban it, and they may just ban it completely, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely, you know, I don't even have a word for it. Appalling, I guess. You know, and it's interesting how popes contradict each other so strongly. So Benedict versus Francis. Benedict allowing the unrestricted access to the Latin Mass, and Francis severely restricting it and hoping to ban it. Obviously, it's going to be a tug of war between popes over until we get a series of Catholic popes, and then it won't be, because we'll have the Mass, and they will see very clearly that the Latin Mass and not the Novus Ordo is the future of the Catholic Church, past, present, and future. And that's it. And this is it for EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.